All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dream Builders podcast. Randy, it's good to have you back.
It's great to be here.
So I want to kind of go back to the early years, like your first home. How did that opportunity come about? How did you sign your first home?
So we may have touched on it at an earlier conversation. One of my neighbors at the condo I used to live in had seen that I was building houses or representing other builders to help them build houses.
Yeah.
We got to talking. He had built a handful of homes. He would build like one at a time and kind of move in, and then build another one, sell it, kind of do that. So when I was thinking about getting off on my own and starting my own company, I knew a lot of the back end stuff, like sales, obviously, marketing, selections, designs, permitting, all those things. I knew construction, but I didn't know it super well. Like sequencing, scheduling, what goes when, and didn't have all the trade resources. I had a handful, but not everybody. So I approached my neighbor and I was like, listen, if I get a job under my Sapphire brand, would you want to work it with me? And I want to learn from you the process and the procedure, and we'll split the profit 50-50. And he was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. And then he came to me one day. He's like, listen, I'm building my own home, and my brother owns a lot right next door. Why don't we market that? If you find a buyer for it, we'll do it there. I was like, great. So we did, marketed it, and that was really what I was good at doing, right? Finding people that want to build homes and getting them to sell, or selling them on wanting to build a home with the builders we're working for. So this was my opportunity to do it for myself, and I did. Luckily for me, it was a client that was all cash. They didn't need a mortgage. The reason I bring that up is because you can't necessarily be approved as a builder with banks if you don't have a resume or a track record, right? So this was kind of perfect happenstance. The client knew I had worked with other builders in the past, and this was my first home under Sapphire, the brand. They knew my neighbor was also working with me as well, and we were partnering up on the deal. So they bought into it. They gave me the opportunity, gave them a pretty good deal. Obviously, it was my first one, and that home was in Rochester Hills. It was started out 3,100 square feet, ended up like 3,300 square feet. And I think we sold it for like $350,000, not counting the land. It's the build contract. Keep in mind, this is 2013, so 13 years ago. And we signed that up in July of 2013, broke ground in October of 2013, and then we finished it the following November of 2014.
Sweet.
So it took me just over a year to build that house. And actually, it's funny enough, I just drove by it last week. I was in the area, and I was with my wife and kids, and I was like, you guys want to see Dad's first house that we built?
Nice.
My son was like, no, I want to go home. I was like, well, too bad. I'm going to show you anyway. So we drove by, and actually, it's kind of hard to see now. There's like a forest in front of it.
Yeah.
It was kind of built behind some wetlands. Learned a ton building that house and driving by. It's cool to see that was my first project. Doesn't look like the homes that I build nowadays.
Sure.
It was version 1.0, if you will. But it's still something I'm definitely still proud of.
Good. Now, you brought up the year, which I'm glad. I was going to ask you, set a time for how long ago this was. So this is about 13 years ago. So you're young. Back then, you were younger, and you didn't necessarily have an established track record. How do you convince a client to trust you? Did you need to convince this client to trust you?
Absolutely. I mean, trust, especially in building a home, there's tons of horror stories out there about how it always goes wrong, and it takes twice as long and ends up costing twice as much, and then there's builders go MIA or bankrupt or whatever. So there was definitely convincing required. One one of the good things was that the lot that we had was desirable, so the client wanted to be in that location, and if they did, then they didn't have a choice. They had to build with us.
Right.
But I had told them, I've been doing this at the time. It was probably like 4 or 5 years of me working with other builders, and my partner on that project had built a handful of homes. He was able to go walk through one of his homes and walk through one of the homes I was representing for the other builders, and that kind of built some trust. Obviously, I knew what I was talking about. It was not like it was my first experience, period, in the home building world. And again, we gave him a good deal.
Yeah.
We didn't make a ton of money on that house, but it was a great portfolio piece for me. It was a great, I can actually do it, and a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And, going back to my age, so I started Sapphire. I got my builder's license April of 2012, established Sapphire in November of 2012, and signed this deal up in July of 2013. So it was a pretty short period of time overall. And I want to say, let me do the math here, 23 when I started Sapphire, and 24 when I signed that first deal. So I was a young guy, and I looked pretty young.
Yeah.
The couple I was building for were relatively young too, but they felt comfortable and confident, and I think that's a big part of it.
Sure.
And I did have an established reputation in the community already from the real estate side of things.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Now it's one thing to convince a client, right? But imposter syndrome is a real thing. Did you have to convince yourself? Did you feel confident? Were you anxious? What was going on in your head when they're like, yeah, we signed it, let's go?
For that first house, I was actually pretty confident. Sometimes when you don't know what you don't know, you feel confident. Plus, I had the partner on that home that I was relying on as well, and
Sure.
he was supporting me throughout that process. And so that made me feel comfortable and confident. So there was definitely some learning experiences and ups and downs, but overall, I thought it was actually a pretty smooth project. And the client, we're still, we just had a ribbon cutting for the Pinnacle neighborhood last year. I invited all my past clients. He came.
Oh, that's awesome.
Him and his wife, and we got chatting a little bit, and they still live in that home, so it's pretty cool. I will say that at that first home, no, I did not have imposter syndrome. Fast forward like a year and a half after that, so halfway through building that home, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I love everything about this. I love the design and the sale and the build, the construction, and it feels good to create something out of nothing. And
for sure,
it felt like this was a right. Again, background in sales, I kind of went pedal to the metal after that. And the next 12 months, I signed 9 projects under the Sapphire brand. And that's when kind of things got a little bit shaky. It was at the time a one-man band. The partner on that first home was only a partner on that first home. After that, I was kind of on my own.
Yeah.
I remember hiring my first project manager, and then hired a helper, and then an administrative. But still, we were a very small team.
Right.
And I had homes from Troy and Rochester to West Bloomfield and everything in between. So there's a lot of geographical distance to cover. And that's when I was like, uh-oh, maybe I bit off a little more than I can chew here.
Sure.
I did bite off more than I could chew. It was a challenging point in time. This is like 2014, 2015. And it felt like, you're always underwater trying to just pop your head up a little bit to catch your breath. But it was challenging. Sales are a good thing. And I was very aggressive, and I was very excited. And looking back, would I do it all again? I mean, I came out stronger on the other side.
Sure.
I probably would have done it a little bit differently, maybe 5 homes instead of 9 homes, and kind of learned a little bit more before I jumped too deep into the water. But all's well that ends well, right?
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you a question, kind of like a raw question about that. So you bit off more than you can chew. Did you suffer? Did the clients see that, or did you take the blunt of it? What did quality / clients suffer? Like, what were the implications of that?
I don't believe my clients suffered. You know, with every home project, there's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for the client.
Of course.
I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary. I was waking up early and going to sleep late, burning it at both ends, if you will. My project manager, Todd, at the time, I mean, he put Sapphire on his back, and
Yeah, I remember.
we muscled our way through that situation. I vividly remembering going to the office on a Sunday one day, and I'm looking at my desk, and there's just like stacks of things that I need to do. And I was like, all right, I just got to power through this. So organized it, put them in piles, prioritized it, and I'm just powering through. Looking at, I'm doing everything, invoices and sending things out for bid, reviewing bids, reviewing plans, going through permitting applications, going through the selections with the clients, and making sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. Ultimately, I didn't even have enough trade contractors to do the amount of work that we needed. So I'm trying to find new guys that, making calls, do you have anybody for this? And, finding random guys. I'd pull over on a job site because I see a home under construction all the time. That was standard practice for me. See who's on site, get some cards, get them to bid some jobs. Did I really know if they were capable? Only from what I was able to see, and I would try to vet them a little bit more. And a lot of times I'm just throwing money at these things to try to make sure that the projects progress.
Got it.
And I lost that first job that I did. We made a little bit of money. I was over the moon. The next 3 jobs in a row was a loss.
Yeah.
What it cost me to build was more than what I sold it for. And I think a product of that was just inefficiency.
Sure.
Not doing things properly and just trying to muscle your way through. And
Yeah.
It was an expensive learning lesson. I chalked it up to educational expense.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, what's the alternative?
Right.
You pay to go to school to learn, and I learned from the school of hard knocks on
Very
those
well.
ones.
Now, back then, and you mentioned this in a past episode, but we were Sapphire Building, not Sapphire Luxury Homes yet. So did you have kind of the inklings of what Sapphire would become today? Like, were you that forward thinking, or had that not developed yet that early on in the career?
No, I always knew I wanted to do luxury homes and higher end homes. Like the first home I built, was that 3,300 square foot home, which for a first home, I would say that's relatively large.
Yeah.
Most people are building 2,000 square foot homes or 2,500 or whatever. I vividly remember fall of 2014. I believe it was 2014. There was a Homerama in Oakland Township in the Pinnacle neighborhood with Mo Sherry and a few other builders. And I bought tickets to the Black Tie charity event, and then I went probably like 3 or 4 more times. And I was just in awe of these homes. At the time, these were $2 to $3 million homes, which were in today's world, $5 to $6 million homes. And they were very, very well done from an architectural design, interior design, landscaping, the whole 9 yards. And I remember walking through, and one of my buddies was there, and I was like, one day I want to build homes like these. That was my dream. Now we're actually in that same Pinnacle neighborhood in the newest phase in the back. But yeah, I always had the vision that that's what I wanted to do. Not like ultra crazy 20, $30 million homes necessarily, but I wanted to be luxury.
Yeah, but what about because now you're not just a luxury builder, right? Like you brought in the landscaping, the design, and did you always know that you wanted something that resembled the team you have today, or did that just kind of develop as?
No, I knew I wanted that vertical. Back, I don't know if you remember my office in Troy.
Yeah.
On Big Beaver, back of the Keller Williams office. I had a 10 by 10 office with a cubicle outside for my admin, and meet clients.
Over door hangers to you.
Yeah, that's right. Meet clients in the conference room there, and I had a whiteboard, and I remember drawing it out, painting the picture of like, what are the facets of this business that I could get into? What do I want to get into? Because there's like remodeling, doing finished basements, doing additions. Do you want to get into commercial? Do you want to do multifamily? And, I've never had a desire to do commercial or remodeling. I flipped a couple homes back in my day, but that wasn't a passion.
Yeah.
But what are the parts that I did like? Anything that had to do with the design and build of a new home. So I love design. Like, that's my background, architecture. I always liked interior design as well.
Yeah.
Building the home, finishing the basement while I'm building the home, obviously is a value add to the bottom line and to the client.
Sure.
And landscaping. If you build a house, you have to have landscaping.
Yeah.
It's not an option, right? So we don't do a lot of really any maintenance of landscaping or remodeling of landscaping. It's mostly for the homes that we build or of similar caliber projects where we're just installing new.
Yeah, like design and install.
Design and build, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from an early stage in my business, back when it was still Sapphire Building, I knew that I wanted to kind of be holistic around that approach.
Sweet. Now, granted, in today's market, the number means something different, but when you think luxury, right? A million, that's the number in everybody's head. So why don't you tell me about the first time you got that $1 million contract? What did that look like?
Yeah. I had a realtor that had approached me and said, I have a client that wants to build in Troy. He wants to be on an acre. He wants to build a large home. He's a foreign person here on a work visa.
Okay.
Well-to-do, and wants to build a home. He wants to eventually get his citizenship here and raise his kids and family here.
Yeah.
So
I think I know the house.
yeah. So
I remember the house.
I knew of a piece of property in the Charnwood neighborhood that a client was talking to me about building for them, and they had just bought the lot and they were wanting to build, but he was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready. He was wishy-washy. So I showed it to this new other client and I said, if I can get the guy to sell, is this a good lot for you? And he said, yes. So I went back to the client that originally owned the lot, and he had bought it for $200,000. And I was like, I got somebody that's interested in buying this lot. If you don't want to build right now. He's like, well, I don't know if I want to build it. I don't know if I want to sell it. I was like, what if I can get you $300,000 for the lot? He's like, make 50% return in months of time.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'd sell it for $300,000. I'll go find another lot. So that's how I made that deal happen. And the client sitting across the table, he was a little bit concerned. Like, he saw some of the homes I was building, but they weren't $1 million homes. They were $500,000 homes, $400,000, $500,000, maybe $600,000 homes. I think I had one at like 700.
Yeah.
But I wanted to convince him that, I could do it. And it was a larger home than what I was previously building. It was 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Most of the homes I was building were in the 4,000 to 5,000 square feet range. So I helped him get the property, which built trust right there. Like, okay, he knows something, right?
Sure.
And we were sitting in that Troy office on Big Beaver. He was sitting in my office with his realtor across from me, and I gave him a proposal. And I remember I was nervous because it started with a 1,
Yeah.
1,200,000, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was for this home with these features and these details. And the address of that home was a cool address. It was 2211, 2211.
Yeah.
And the client sitting across from me, he was big into numerology.
Sure.
So we're negotiating. He's negotiating me hard. Like, he wants me to knock off $200,000-$300,000 off this price. I'm like, I can't knock off there's not even 200 in profit to knock off. So I was like to him, I got something for you. I was like, the address is 2211. What if I charge you 1122? I don't know why that came to my mind. He was talking about how numbers were important to him, and he just looked at me and he's like, I like that. And that was my first $1 million
Art of the deal.
Yeah. 1.122. That was my first $1 million deal. And it was a really cool project for me. It was a wide home, a very nice architectural style. And
yeah. If I remember, was it like a double lot? Is this the same house I'm thinking?
No, it wasn't a double lot, but it was a large lot. It was an acre property.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the house had a really wide face.
It was very wide, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And continue and you build and you build. I want to go back to that first home. I know you said there wasn't anything crazy, but Are there any lessons that like you took away from that home that like are still with you today?
I was heavily involved in that home, like on a day-to-day basis. I was on the site every day. I remember being in the basement hole, putting in the back bracing before, backfill, and it was, October, November. It was muddy. It was nasty out.
Sure.
We were cold, and we're doing this after hours. It's nighttime. We got like lights shining in there, and one of the lessons that I learned, or I wouldn't say even a lesson, one thing that stuck out to me is like construction of a home has numerous different people involved. There's hundreds of people that work on these homes day in and day out. We manage them. We don't necessarily self-perform. We're not, putting hammers to nails.
Sure.
But not to take for granted what people are doing to help create these homes. This isn't done by Sapphire alone or by Randy alone. It's a large group of people, hundreds of people coming together to create, to design and build these homes. And they're working hard. They really are. And I was down in that hole doing something, and I was thinking to myself, like, I don't like this part of the build. That's not my favorite part. I'll do what I have to do, but ultimately I'd love to hire the right people and get them to do the right things for me. And I would say that was one of the things that really stuck out to me. Is like people bust ass to put food on the table for their families, and we help to make that happen, and not to take that for granted.
For sure. And I wasn't even thinking this, but you kind of brought it up. But to do something like what you want to do, and in business in general, everyone's like, delegate, delegate, delegate. You can't be the one doing the work. But in the beginning, when you are, I think that's super important, right? Because now you know what goes into it. You know what these people are doing. You know what to look for, so you can provide these opportunities for the right people, right? So it's like important to kind of get down and dirty in the beginning, so that you're not just throwing money at a problem and hoping that you know what I mean? Because a lot of people just approach that, right? Throw more money at it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, a lot of people look at it now and say, it's a pretty picture. But I would say anybody getting into business, any kind of business, construction or not, if you're going to own your own business, I think it's important to know all the facets of that business, all the different pieces and parts, divisions and departments. I listened to Elon's biography a year ago, and like the amount of time he spent on the line, like overnight on the floor, like spending time and learning the pieces and parts on his Teslas or on his SpaceX rocket ships. That was inspiring. This guy was already a multimillionaire at the time, and he was still wanting to know every single piece and how he could make it better and efficiencies. And I think for me, I've done every single aspect of from pulling permits to hiring contractors, sending things out for bid, designing, being out there with the trades, project managing, laboring, brooming and sweeping and shoveling snow off the projects and properties and things of the sort. I remember the second home I ever built, I rented a machine from, I think it was Chet's Rental or whatever, and I was trying to install my own silt fence, and it was like a ride behind trencher, and I didn't have somebody to do that job, and the city was requiring this, so I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. I went and bought the silt fence material, and I'm out there. This machine is handling me. I was not handling the machine, and I'm over there trying to go. It was a big lot. It's like 300 by 200 by 300 by 200. I'm there all day. It's August. It's hot. I'm sweating, trying to do this thing, and it's like not going super well. I know, like, yeah, this is not my favorite part of the job. So again, have I done every piece of like plumbing and electrical? No, not necessarily, but I was involved, and I learned a lot about all the different parts of the whole that come together.
Yeah, sort of they're the building blocks of what you were able to achieve today. So I look forward to seeing. I know there's big plans, and there's a new model home coming, so I look really forward to see where Sapphire goes from here.